Hello. So in this video, I'm just going to go through the 5 non-verbal reasoning questions that we did in the quiz the other day, just to make sure you understand how we get to the answers. So remember, it's very important to consider spans, right? Shapes, position, angle, numbers, size, shading. If you consider this when you're answering the questions, then suddenly the question can become a lot easier. So how does this work? Well, let's start with the top factor, which is shapes. So what I need to do is look at all of the shapes involved in my objects here and see if I notice any patterns that's going to help me ascertain the answer. So if I look at object 1, what I'm going to do, because I notice that every object has an outside shape and an inside shape, I'm just going to look at the outside shapes for now. Otherwise, it will be a bit too confusing. So the outside shape in object 1, we can see it's a square. It's a 4-sided shape. And then the outside shape for the second object is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided shape. So we've got an irregular pentagon. Okay, so square, pentagon. The outside object here is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 6-sided shape. So we've got a 4-sided shape, a 5-sided shape, a 6-sided shape. And then if I count this one, I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided shape. Now, because I'm aware that there must be some sort of pattern going on in order for me to answer this question, I must try to imagine what the pattern might be. Now, I know I've got a 4-sided shape, a 5-sided shape, a 6-sided shape, then a 5-sided shape. Now, the only pattern I can think of at the moment is 4 sides, 5 sides, 6 sides, then 5 sides, and then back down to 4 sides. So that would be a symmetrical pattern. We'd have 4, 5, 6, 5, 4. Let me write it out for you so I can show you what I mean by a symmetrical pattern. Okay, so if you look, we have, sorry, let me sort this out and make it a bit neater so it's easier to explain. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 5, 4. It's symmetrical, yeah? It's like a bit like a mirror. Almost like a mirror. If I draw a line here, then we can see we've got 6, then we've got 5, 5, and then we've got 4, 4. Okay, so therefore I've assumed that this object is going to be a 4-sided shape on the outside. Okay, so that's reasonable, that's logical. So if I look at my answers, I want to go for the answer with a 4-sided shape on the outside. So this one has a 4-sided shape on the outside. This one doesn't. This one does. This one does, and this one doesn't. So what I've done is I have deduced some answers. I have left myself with A, C, and D. So already my chances of getting this question right, if I was to guess, has increased. Yeah, I've now got a 3 and 5 chance of getting this question right if I were to guess at this point, but we don't need to guess, we can carry on. So I'm now going to put a dot over the answers that it can be. It could be A, it could be C, it could be D. I'm going to cross out these ones, B and E, to save confusion. Let's now look at the innermost shapes. So inside I've got a triangle, then I've got a quadrilateral, a rectangle, then I've got a pentagon. Then look, it's another 4-sided shape. So it's doing the same pattern as the outside shapes, but with different numbers. We've got 3-sided shape inside, we've got a 4-sided shape inside, we've got a 5-sided shape inside, then 4. So again, we've got that symmetry going on. 3, 4, 5, 4. So a reasonable answer would be a 3-sided shape inside. So A has a 3-sided shape inside, C has a 3-sided shape inside, but D doesn't. So it can't be D. So now I'm left with A and C. Okay. So now let's talk about the position. Now the position is pretty consistent throughout. It's got an outside shape and then a shape bang in the middle. And this answer has an outside shape and a shape bang in the middle, as does this shape. So really the position isn't going to help us much. So let's look at angle. Angle is very difficult to compare with this question because we've got different shapes. So naturally they have different angles. So I'm tempted to focus on something that I know is different about the shapes. So if I look at my 2 possible answers, I've got a triangle in the middle and a triangle in the middle. However, one is shaded and one isn't shaded. So I'm tempted to go straight to shading to see if I can get my answer quicker than going through all of the factors. Now, if we look at the shading for all of the objects, we've got a non-shaded shape, then we've got a shaded shape, then we've got a non-shaded shape, then we've got a shaded shape. So again, we've got a pattern, non-shaded, shaded, non-shaded, shaded. So my answer is going to have to be a non-shaded shape to keep that pattern consistent. So I'm left with the answer A because C has a shaded shape inside. So A must be the answer, right? Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Which of these images from A to C is next in the sequence? So once again, it's a very similar question. So let's start by looking at shapes. Right, I've got a square, triangle, circle. I've got a square, but actually it's a rectangle, isn't it? Triangle, circle. Then I've got this strange L shape, triangle, circle. Then I've got another similar shape, but I can see that it's been extended at the bottom. But I've got a triangle and a circle. And then here, I've got another extended version of that black shape throughout. It's getting bigger. We'll talk about that more in a second, but let's look at the other shapes. We've got triangle, circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle. So I know that every object has a triangle and a circle in it, which means my answer must have a triangle and a circle in it as well. The only problem here is that all of these options have a triangle and a circle in it. So let's forget the triangles and circles for a second, and let's focus on that strange square that seems to be extending. Okay, so we've got a square here. Now, how can we describe the difference between that square and this rectangle? Well, one way we could describe the difference is that the square has had another block added to it. If we look at this object here, we could look at this as two squares next to each other rather than one rectangle, right? Because if we look at it that way, then on the next object, we can see another square has been added. You see? And then if we do it again with this next object, we can see another square has been added. I'll be a bit clearer about this in a minute, so don't worry if you're a bit confused. And then if we look at this object here, if I divide them up into squares, sorry, it's not that even, but you get what I'm saying. All right, so what I've done is I've divided all of those black bottom left shapes into squares. And now what you should be able to see is a square is being added every time. So one square is added to the bottom, but then one square is added to the top. And then another square is added to the bottom, and then a square is added to the top. So in order for that pattern to be consistent, I need to add a square to the bottom like this. So I know that I need my answer to look a little bit like this. Okay, so out of all of those answers, we can rule out this one because the bottom isn't long enough. And we can rule out D because the squares at the top or the side are too high, as is E. So we've left ourselves with B and C. Okay, so let's clear that. And I'm going to mark B and C so I know that they're the ones that I need to focus on. And A, D, and E are now ruled out. Okay, so we've looked at shapes. Let's look at the position. Well, I can see instantly that the triangle and the circle, they remain in the same place throughout. So I don't think the position is going to be that helpful. So let's move straight on to angle. Okay, the angle of the triangle changes, doesn't it? At first, we've got the triangle, we've got it pointing upwards. And then if we look at the next box, we've got it pointing downwards. Then the next box pointing upwards. Next box pointing downwards, the next box pointing upwards. So I'd expect in order for a pattern to be consistent, that our answer must have a triangle facing downwards, which only leaves me with B. But just to make sure, let's consider the shape that we haven't paid much attention to. Let's look at the circle, because if we can get this circle here to fit in with the pattern, then we know we're probably right. So we've got white circle, black circle, white circle, white circle. So again, we've got that sort of almost symmetrical, well, quite symmetrical pattern going on. We've got white, white, black, black, white, white. So that's a pattern. You can hear that that's a pattern, right? So I'm very comfortable with picking P as my answer now. B as my answer now. Okay, now I don't want to go through all of these questions because I really think it's important that if you didn't get these right, you can use what I've said so far to help you go over the questions that you've got incorrect and see if you can actually get them right now. So what I'll do is I'll show you question 13, and if you could pause it on this screen and then do what I've been doing, have a look at SPANSS on the left-hand side and see if you can use it to help you answer the question. Once you've done that, here's question 14. Give that one a go. And then once you've done that, here's question 15, give that one a go. If you use SPANSS for question 13, 14, and 15 and still can't figure out the answer, feel free to send me a message and I will help you understand how we find the answer to any question. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope that's cleared some stuff up. Goodbye.